This is the map published by The Guardian on the 30th of January showing the extent of the destruction wreaked in Gaza by Israeli bombardment since the 7th of October last year. It's shocking enough in itself, but when you cross-reference it with other maps, you begin to get a sense of the way in which the conditions of life in Gaza have been systematically annihilated by Israeli forces. This is a map showing every residential building in Gaza before 7th of October. This is what was left as of the end of January, and of course the destruction continues across the territory, but particularly right now in Rafah. Here is a map of greenhouses in Gaza before the Israeli bombardment. Greenhouses are a lifeline for many Gazan families, providing greater and more secure access to healthy foods. This is what is left of those now, and of course without a functioning water supply, even most of these have been rendered unusable. Also, in terms of food security, here are Gaza's warehouses before the Israeli carpet bombing, and what's left. This is a map of tree crops in Gaza before the destruction began, including fruit trees and olive trees, which have provided food for residents and been among Gaza's major exports. This is what currently remains undamaged. This map shows all private schools, Palestinian Authority schools, UNRWA schools and universities running in Gaza before the 7th of October. And here are those that haven't yet been destroyed. None of these is of course currently able to function as such in any case. Here is a map of major health facilities in Gaza before Israeli forces began to attack them, including prenatal facilities, mental health facilities, clinics and hospitals. And here is what remains. All of this destruction would take many decades to restore, although of course it seems unlikely that those who built and grew all that has been pulverized by the Israeli bombardment will even be allowed to return to do so. One prominent feature of this map emerges when you subtract the destruction caused to built-up areas, which have been more or less annihilated. Here you can see a line of destruction stretching down through the centre of the territory. This particular swathe of bombardment aligns with the so-called humanitarian corridor announced by Israel along Salah al-Din Street in November last year. When residents of Gaza City in the north were ordered to evacuate, they were promised safe passage along this street. However, many witnesses have described Salah al-Din Street as a corridor of death and humiliation. Civilian convoys and vehicles have been repeatedly bombed and targeted, and testimonies from dozens of witnesses collected in Gaza by journalist Tarek Hajjaj describe Palestinians having been summarily executed and killed by Israeli snipers, including children, their parents ordered by their murderers to abandon their bodies by the side of the road. According to the testimonies, people were made to crawl on their bellies through checkpoints, forced to undress and descend into pits filled with dead bodies, sometimes to be shot, sometimes to be released, among many other horrors. The street is littered with the bodies of men, women and children in various states of decomposition. There are millions of horror stories like these behind these simple red swatches, which delineate the annihilation of a people.